Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program Midday Discuss on Global Television. My name is Samuel Odi. Yes, yet again, the weekend it's upon us, and it's a bit cloudy over here in Abuja, probably sunny wherever you're watching me from. And we've had a lot of controversies going on and about election, violence, and hate speech. So today, the INEC chairman has come out and he has this to say. The Independent National Electoral Commission has warned political parties involved in the off-cycle governorship election on Edo and on states to avoid the use of hate speech and offensive languages in conducting of their campaign for elections. The commission also said that parties contesting an election should avoid carrying arms to venue of such campaigns, which must be communicated to the commission and the Nigerian police at least 10 days before the campaign. This was contained in the guidelines for campaign released by the commission on Friday, which is today, while also saying that in accordance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, all candidates in the election should be allowed to access to all public facilities for their campaign activities. A statement by the National Commissioner, Information and Voters Education, Sam Olumekun, reminded parties of the need to adhere to the provision of the law before, during, and after the elections. The statement read following the publication of the final list of candidates for governorship election in Edo and Ondo states. Public campaigns have commenced in the earliest. Over the years, a running problem in the Nigerian electoral process has been the use of power of incumbents to deny opposition parties and candidates access to public facilities for rallies and other campaigning activities. On today's edition, I've got my guest here in the studio with me who is versed in journalism and public speaking. Mr. Anthony Momodu, thank you so much for joining us on today's edition.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Yes, so how's the weather? How are you feeling with the coziness of the weekend? Are you in the groove already?
Yes, so we're already set. We're already in the weekend, but the weekend is best when you're in the studios.
Yes, the weekend is best when you're in the studios, talking big stories and bringing information to the people. Let's look at it. What's your reaction to INEC coming out to say political parties should watch out and stay away from hate speeches during campaign periods as this?
We know that political parties, the candidate themselves, they have a huge role to play in deciding if an election is free, fair, and credible, if there's going to be violence or not. Because these political parties, these candidates, they have followers, they have supporters who would do anything and would stop at nothing to ensure their party or their candidate wins by going overboard in terms of even causing mayhem. So when candidates make speeches that seem to incite or call for mob actions by their supporters, that's when the supporters go haywire. For instance, during the previous elections, we've heard when candidates, even the ex-wife president of Nigeria, talking about Muhammadu Buhari, before he came into power, during the campaign seasons, we did
2015.
Yes, 2015. He made some comment that seemed to have instigated people. So fast forward currently, when the specific candidates make comments, the supporters take it hook, line, and sinker. So it's very important candidates, political parties ensure that their candidates and supporters well behave before, during, and after the elections. Before the elections is the fact that some candidates or parties might make the impression as to say the INEC, Independent Electoral Body, is already compromise. So it means whatever they do, they're not going to win the elections. Or when they make it look like, okay, a vote have already been bought, or the papers, the electoral papers have already been signed already. So those kind of comments could cause a lot of mayhem, especially after voting has been casted and all that. So that's why it's very important the candidates and their political parties do not make sweeping statements that may cause harm. Like, for instance, in what's happening in Rivers, when we've got the PDP already alleging that the APC is trying to muscle take power by all means in Rivers State. Such statement already would ignite the supporters and youth in the state to say, okay, whatever action that's being done now, it's already compromised and caused a lot of trouble. So I think that's one of the reasons INEC has found it very necessary to make such a comment. And looking at what INEC is saying, also the fact that over time the issue of the electoral law is always not adhered to by political parties and candidates. So if you notice, in course of that discussion, they mentioned certain laws that should be adhered to.
Okay, let's look at this. And it's good that all of this is coming from the INEC, because at the end of the day, it's bent on INEC giving the results after the whole campaign. So how effective now will INEC be where in terms of delivering the result and making sure that this voters actually their votes actually gets to count on the day of election, and not just ignited and saying beavers this or beavers that?
Okay, like the INEC chairman and also the
we're looking at the readiness now of
voter education and sensitization man in the person of Sam Olumekon has already made it known that the Section 59, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act, which has already pointed the fact that no state's apparatus should be used for the advantage or disadvantage of any candidate or political party. That's to say, for instance, for in Edo, the election is going to take place. Godwin Obaseki, the incumbent governor, should not use the power of incumbency to ensure that probably the APC do not have access to
the Labour Party.
Some centers that we use during this campaign, because we've seen over time where the incumbent governor or the party in power ensures that the opposition party and candidate cannot have access to some of the public institutions or places where they can use for their campaigns. The Section 59, subsection 2 prohibits that. And so it's expected that now that INEC is drumming it in the ears of the parties and the candidates, a governor like Godwin Obaseki should not contravene that section of the Electoral Act by not allowing the APC candidate in the person of Monday Okpepolo and his party to use certain facilities in the state during the campaign. Which is very key, because once the opposition party perceives that the governor or the government is using the apparatus of the state to deny them the opportunity to campaign, then that's when violence might erupt. And so that's illustration on that is one factor. Then you also look at still Section 95, subsection 3 to 5 is also hammering on the fact that that's where the media comes into play, where the media, by law, the Electoral Act says the media should give all political parties and their candidates equal coverage, use of the media, so that no party seem to be shortchanged in terms of visibility and coverage. So, and if you move forward to subsection 6, there are penalties for media houses if they default in not giving, equal coverage and visibility to any of the political parties. So some of these laws have been already re-emphasized by INEC in this coming days, especially now that the final list of candidates of all the parties for the Edo and Ondo elections have been released. What it means is that campaign is ongoing as we speak right now. So this is when the role of the security agencies is very much needed. And in terms of sensitization, this is when also civil society organizations have to put on their thinking cap and help INEC as a way of doing more sensitization to the electorate, supporters of candidates and political parties, so that the people or the electorate understand that it's not a do or die affair, and that if you stray by cultivating any of these electoral laws, there is punishments that await you, especially this window of the campaign which has started in Edo and Ondo State as we speak.
Yes, let's look at this angle. You're talking about the security agencies now and INEC. INEC made in this statement said they need to provide, political parties need to provide a 10-day notice to the INEC and security operatives to go sensitize the place. So what's your reaction to this now if political parties don't get to adhere to this? Because obviously, one, they'll be wanting to use public spaces, right, for campaign and rallies. So the INEC is saying, give us a 10-day notice, telling security forces, telling the parties as well to also give security forces 10-day notice for them to be able to sanitize the place. What if they go ahead of this? Would there be any kind of punishment? Do you think there should be any kind of punishment for?
Well, as long as it's stated, it's INEC who is the umpire here. For if it defaults, there's always a penalty. But I think the political parties, the candidate will not want to default, and that also depends on how strict INEC comes down. Because if different sections like the section 95, subsection 2, we talked about where. It's wrong for any incumbent governor to use the power of incumbency to deny, for instance, you still usually do as a case study, deny the APC the opportunity to use facilities for their campaigns or necessarily hike the fees to be paid in certain areas for the APC to use that facility. Then once it's contravened, INEC should be bold enough, should have the political will if it's a fine or whatever the law says as a penalty, should be instantly meted out to state governor or government if they are the ones defaulting. Same thing if that's what's happening in Ondo State. But we also know that the political parties also at the same time have a kind of influence on INEC. This is where INEC has to show that it's serious by not being influenced by any political party and not from others from Abuja, or because probably it's in the state level, then you let things slide.
Yeah, so that means INEC needs to be more independent in this situation. Okay, looking at the political parties now, what approach? Because at the end of the day, during the rallies, that is when a whole lot of hate speeches go on. So what way do these political party candidates now approach and then make sure they don't indict the people to go ahead and start fighting each other?
I think one key thing one of the key things that could help, eliminate the issue of hate speech is if the discourse or the attention or the manifesto of political parties are well defined, or the candidates, when issues being discussed are on people-centered and not the personality of the aspirant or the candidate. Because when people start discussing, or each of the candidates of the different parties bring up manifestos and say, okay, we're going to do X, Y, Z for you. We know that this is what this X community needs, and they dwell on that rather than dwell on the person's personality. And we're most likely not to hear his speeches. But when the discourse is focused or the campaign message is focused on the personality rather than what the people need or how to give the people the dividends of democracy, then that's when we see possibility of hate speech popping out. And also for the political parties also, they should also be able to inform their candidates that, okay, this is the way forward, this is what we want our party to portray, this is what we know the people need, and so stick to that and not stick to trying to pull down the other candidate. Because most times when political parties or candidates do that is when they do not have what to offer the people or what to say to the people, they begin to malign the character or the reputation of their opposition, thinking that's the way forward. And I think Nigeria and Nigerians have gone past that era, especially with what Nigerians are going through right now. They know better that what they need to is to hear, aside hearing what is coming out of the politician's mouth, about seeing the sincerity. And even when the candidate tells you, I'm going to bring X, Y, Z, the next question should be, how do you intend to make this happen? So that it's not the case of lot of promises and can't deliver or when you now get into office, you now start telling us we didn't know the rot or the problem was as massive as this. Just like in some quarters, some people believe that this current administration is technically also giving such excuses when they begin to tell you, okay, we didn't know. We recently, when the New York Times did make a report as regards how worse the economy is, you could hear the presidency by Onanuga quickly jump into the defense of the federal government, saying they inherited a dead economy. So the question is, how come you didn't know the economy was dead before, and you were still pushing for it? And even if the economy is dead, government is a continuum. It's still the APC leading, ruling the country. So that shouldn't be an excuse for you not to get the job done.
Okay, let's look at what's happening in River State now and how the people are reacting. Like from reports gotten this week, a policeman was shot dead, and also a civilian also died due to the crisis going on between the chairman of local government that their tenure has expired, and some youths agitating and taking over camps for secretariat for them not to come back and continue. Let's look at this from this angle now. How can that now, let's using River State now as a case study, how can we not make sure that the same thing doesn't reoccur in Ondo State and Edo State because of this forthcoming election? How do people, most of these politicians are said to be, friends, it's just that they have different political parties. So how do this influence the masses not to, jump the gun and start fighting each other because two certain politicians are not in good terms?
All right, like I mentioned earlier, if the campaign message is centered on dividends of democracy and how they can get the people out of the woods and provide all the basic amenities which the people want, and also if they are talking about how the implementation of whatever policies and projects they are promising the people, then that case would not have to occur. Another point is the fact that in terms of sensitization by the different political parties, if they've done their homework of ensuring that their supporters or their followers know what the campaign promises or what their agenda is, and if they've done their background check already, if during the election, the primaries, and if that party has internal democracy, what it means is that whoever must have emerged as a candidate, first aspirant to the candidate, it means it's something the party as a body, as a whole, has agreed to support their candidate, and they have brought out the best man to fly the flag. But when internal democracy is missing in a party, it means lots of people might already be aggrieved already, just like we have in Edo State where Philip Schreiber is already aggrieved, and so he has openly said he is supporting the APC candidate when he is in the PDP to win. So that already is a red flag, because what it means is that he would do whatever he can to jeopardize the likely opportunity of PDP winning, which includes instigating violence, making sure that areas where the PDP seem to have a stronger hold and might likely gather more votes, he would cause mayhem there so that elections do not hold there in order to disqualify the PDP candidate's opportunity. So once such things are taken out of the way, then it's going to be easier for we to have a free, fair, and credible elections. Another aspect we have to look at is the fact that, thank God, these are off-cycle elections. So what it means that the manpower in terms of security forces needed to guard these elections will be enough or in surplus. Unlike when it is a general elections, the manpower is already split across board, so you might not have enough security personnel on ground. But this time, that won't be the case, and we expect that even the police or the security personnel will be non-partisan. That means not taking sides, not being influenced by any of the political parties, or say because this is APC who is the ruling party, then they would try to instigate or protect hoodlums that belong to a specific political party. So that is another key issue we have to look at. And INEC on their own part has to keep drumming it down the ears of the political parties, the candidates, and the electors specifically, and for Nigerians and electors themselves. because it's Nigerians they use it causing this mayhem. It's the youth that snatch ballot boxes, cause
yes.
mayhem in polling units and all that. The youth also have to come to the realization that if they truly want Nigeria's democracy to
change
and become better, if they truly want to elect the right person that would give them the dividends of democracy, then violence shouldn't be an option. Rather, let them try and more during this campaign period, campaign well, convince the electorates why they have to vote for your candidate, that on the election day, because this is another issue, voter apathy is another big factor, because when people are reluctant to come out to cast their votes, regardless of whatever effort INEC have done to bring in the sensitive and non-sensitive materials, or regardless of the trainings they must have given to the INEC ad hoc staff and all that. Once the people do not come out to cast their vote on that day, half of the effort has been defeated. So that's and people would not come out if they sense any form of violence that might erupt, or if they believe INEC is already compromised, then they would not come out to cast their vote because they feel their vote doesn't count. So those are some issues we have to look at.
INEC has also come out to complain and say the issue of vote buying and spraying of fake news is also impounding their work and making them not to deliver the accurate judgment, because most of the times, looking at the past election, there is no election that has been conducted in the past 4 8 years that has not gone to court because of candidates saying they actually won, and then INEC releasing a result and saying that was what they had. So now INEC has come out to complain that vote buying is also part of the challenges why they don't get to deliver, or they don't get to do their job properly. So how can that now be curtailed? This is in the angle of educating the masses and on not selling their votes.
All right. In terms of the vote buying, the media also has play a role, like Section 95, Section 325, portrays where the media has the role of ensuring that all candidates are given equal coverage and visibility, and also help in spreading the essence of the process. Because I believe when the media gives all candidates fair coverage, visibility, and also enlighten the people, the electorate, on their need of abstaining from vote buying or selling. Because when you sell or buy votes, it's just that money, or that's going to just, it's just last you maximum a week, and you're going to suffer. Yes, and you're going to suffer the consequences, like some Nigerians believe they are right now, in terms of whatever choices they had made during the general elections. Once people begin to see the essence of not allowing their votes to be bought, because what it means that the right person will not be voted into power. And once the right person is not voted into power, it means the interests of the people will not be taken into account when policies are being made. Once the people begin to see that, and the media on their own part begin to show them evidences of the consequences of selling or buying their votes, then the people become more informed. And civil society organizations also have a role to play. The National Orientation Agency also has a very massive role to play, because this is where they come into play. We don't want to see just Mohammed Idris come repeat what the presidency has said, or what Ngelali has said, but rather this is where he's supposed to kick into motion of consistent sensitization for those in Edo and Ondo State as regards the consequences of vote buying and selling. Then for the political parties, their agents who buy and sell votes during the election proper, at the polling unit, at the ward. This is where we expect the security agencies to be at their best, arrest them, and sanctions appropriately meted out. And if possible, let INEC go further to say, okay, if X and Y parties is found wanting this, this is the penalty you, and also INEC should be bold enough during, if afterwards there's any form of litigation or complaint, INEC should be able to come out and say, yes, we saw ABC evidence as vote buying by socio-political party. That alone also can checkmate the political parties from wanting their agents to play that role of vote buying or selling during elections.
Looking at the clock now, time is no longer our friend, and we would just say, I would say at this point, do not let any political party influence you into going ahead and fighting your neighbor, your brother, and your sister. At the end of the day, these politicians are all friends, and their kids get married to each other. On that note, I would say, do not be influenced negatively by any political party or any candidate of yours during the elections that will be coming up in Edo and Ondo State. Stay away from trouble. It's the weekend. And on that note, I will say, be your brother's keeper. Do not fight. Say no to electoral violence. Mr. Anthony Momodi, thank you so much for joining us on today's edition.
Always a pleasure being here.
Yes, so on that note, we'll be drawing the curtain for the week, and we will be saying good afternoon and do have a splendid weekend ahead. I'll see you Monday with another exciting edition. Do have a great weekend ahead. My name is Samuel Odi. Bye-bye.